chosen one. Heaven has paused everything to deliver this word to you. You may think it is coincidence that you are hearing this now, but in truth, this is divine interruption. The Spirit has pressed pause on the noise of the world so that your soul can be marked with this message. You are not like the rest. You were never meant to blend in. And today, your awakening begins. You feel it deep within the sense that your life carries weight beyond ordinary existence. Others may laugh at you, overlook you, even misunderstand you. Yet still something inside whispers, "I was made for more." That whisper is not imagination. It is the eternal calling of the one who formed you. You are heaven's chosen one. And that is why the world could never own you. Think of your life as a page already written in a scroll sealed in heaven. Long before you were born, your name was spoken into eternity. Every setback you endured, every sleepless night you carried silently, every season where you felt invisible, none of it was wasted. You have been in preparation, like gold refined in the fire. I want you to picture this: a soldier standing at attention, alone, before the king. The world may see just another person, but in the courts of heaven, angels whisper, "This is one marked for assignment." That is you, chosen, separated, and called to awaken. There is a young man I once knew, who spent years working quietly while those around him chased recognition. He often felt unseen, even questioned his own worth. But in his hidden season, and he was being sharpened. When his moment arrived, doors opened suddenly, and it became clear that the waiting was not punishment, but positioning. His story echoes yours. Your delay is not denial, it is design. Do you know why your heart has felt heavy? Because you were never meant to live casually. You were marked to carry a light that unsettles darkness. The reason storms come at you is not because you are weak, but because you are dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. Your presence shifts atmospheres, even when you do not speak. That is why people respond to you differently. That is why life has demanded more from you than from others. And now, listen carefully. A door has opened before you. This moment is not simply about inspiration, it is about transformation. You are standing at the threshold of separation between who you thought you were and who heaven says you are. If you step forward, everything changes. We find in the book of Philippians, chapter 4, verse 13, "I can do all things through Christ, who gives me strength." This is your reminder, not to live small, not to be confined by fear or failure, but to step into strength that comes from above. What you could not carry alone, you will carry with grace. What seemed impossible, you will accomplish because heaven backs you. And here is what I must ask of you. If this word has stirred something in your spirit, if you feel heaven confirming that this is not chance but divine timing, then do not keep it hidden. Share this light. Let others hear what you are hearing. Like this message. Subscribe so that you never miss the flow of anointing. And leave a sign below in the comments, a simple number, a prophetic mark that says, "I hear this. I receive this. I am chosen." Comment Sheba Me'ot Shebaim Vesheba right now. This is not for the casual listener. This is for the marked ones. For those who will rise when others sleep. For those who carry a torch while others hide. For you. The world is about to witness what heaven already knows. You were never ordinary. You are chosen. The fire within you cannot be ignored any longer. Just as a seed breaks apart in the dark soil before it rises toward the light, your breaking season has only prepared you for growth. You will no longer shrink back. You will no longer question if you are enough. Heaven has already sealed its verdict. You are set apart for something greater. So, walk forward with courage. Lift your head and step boldly into the new chapter written for you. The world may still try to hold you in yesterday's labels, but heaven calls you by a new name. And as you rise, others will rise too. For your awakening is not just for you. It is for every soul your life will touch. You have carried rejection like a cloak that no one else could see. It weighed heavy on your shoulders in classrooms, in friendships, even in the quiet corners of your own family. The sting of being misunderstood shaped you more than applause ever could. And though rejection felt like abandonment, it was really a hidden confirmation. You were being separated, marked for something different. Imagine clay in the hands of a potter. The clay does not understand why it is pressed, stretched, or spun in circles that make it dizzy. Yet the potter sees the vessel it will become. In the same way, every dismissal, every closed door, every "you don't belong here" was God's shaping hand. He was not punishing you. He was setting you apart. Rejection has a language, and you have become fluent in it. You know the look of eyes that do not welcome you, the tone of voices that diminish your value. But what they could not see is that heaven has always whispered a different story. You were chosen long before their opinions were formed. Their rejection only revealed that your identity is not sourced from them. I remember hearing about a young woman who never seemed to fit anywhere. She tried to join groups, communities, even ministries, but always felt pushed aside. Years later, she discovered her calling was not to blend into any existing circle, but to birth something new that had not yet existed. The very rejection that hurt her became proof she was meant to pioneer. What felt like exile was actually assignment. Think of Joseph, sold by his brothers, misunderstood at every turn. He was thrown into pits and prisons. But each rejection moved him closer to the throne, prepared for him. If he had been embraced at home, he would have never left. Without betrayal, there would have been no Egypt. Without Egypt, there would have been no deliverance for nations in famine. Rejection, for the chosen, is not the end of the story. It is the redirection into destiny. Perhaps you have asked, why me? Why do I always feel like the outsider? But do you see the truth now? Being an outsider is your divine positioning. You are not meant to echo the voices of the crowd. You are meant to carry a sound that the world has not yet heard. The separation has always been your protection. The Word of God declares in the book of Psalms, chapter 118, verse 22, "The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone." This is your story. You were not overlooked by mistake. You were rejected by design. And just as the cornerstone determines the strength of the entire structure, you will carry weight that others cannot. The very moments that made you question your worth are the evidence that heaven was preparing you to be foundational. Consider this: a torch does not shine in a room full of sunlight, but in the midnight hour, its flame becomes unmistakable. You were made to shine in the places others refused to go. That is why rejection followed you. It was heaven's way of keeping you from being too comfortable in places where your fire would have been hidden. Rejection has carved out resilience in you. It has stripped away illusions and forced you to anchor your identity in God alone. Others may depend on applause, but you have learned to walk in silence. Others may collapse when approval is withdrawn, but you have discovered that your worth cannot be taken by man because it was given by God. And so, the rejection you dreaded has been your hidden teacher. It taught you that no matter who leaves, God remains. It showed you that even if doors close, heaven still opens. It proved that being pushed aside by men is often the very thing that pushes you into the arms of destiny. Chosen one. Wear your rejection as a badge of honor. Do not despise it. For every time you were told no, heaven was writing yes. For every circle that would not hold you, heaven was shaping a table with your name on it. And when your season to rise arrives, the same voices that cast you aside will marvel at what God has built upon the cornerstone they once rejected. Chosen one. Your story is not defined by who shut the door, but by the one who holds the keys of every door. What man refuses cannot override what heaven has decreed. The hands that pushed you away unknowingly pushed you closer to your true path. So lift your eyes. The sting of rejection will not last forever, but the strength it builds within you will. One day, you will look back and thank God for every closed circle, because without them, you would have never discovered your crown. There are nights you remember when silence felt louder than any storm. You lay awake, staring into the dark, asking questions no one could answer. Tears ran down your face, but you hid them from the world because you thought no one cared. Yet heaven was listening. Every unspoken cry was gathered. Every sigh was written down. Those silent nights were not wasted. They were prayers carved into eternity. Loneliness has a way of convincing you that you are forgotten. But the truth is, hidden battles are the ones heaven pays the most attention to. While others celebrated openly, you were fighting quietly. While others shouted their victories, you were whispering through pain. And God saw it all. The secret weight you carried became proof of your calling. The tears you thought disappeared into pillows became rivers that watered your destiny. Think of Hannah, barren and misunderstood. Year after year she wept in the temple while others mocked her. Yet in those nights of hidden anguish, her destiny as the mother of a prophet was being written. Pain birthed her prayer, and her prayer birthed Samuel, the one who would anoint kings. In the same way, your sleepless nights are carrying more weight than you realize. They are the soil where greatness germinates. I recall a man who worked tirelessly during the day and wrestled with doubt at night. He thought no one noticed the sacrifices he made, but the night he almost gave up was the night God spoke to him through a verse he had never paid attention to before. Suddenly, the silence was shattered with assurance. That turning point led him into a ministry that touched thousands. His story reminds us, the darkest nights are often the birthplace of the brightest dawns. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah. Chapter 31, verse 16. Restrain your voice from weeping and your eyes from tears, for your work will be rewarded, declares the Lord. This is heaven's response to your silent cries. Your pain has not been ignored. Your hidden service, your unseen sacrifices, your quiet endurance, none of it will remain unrewarded. You will not walk empty-handed after carrying such burdens in faith. Sometimes, your sleepless nights were not just about your own struggles. They were intercession. You carried burdens for others without knowing it. Heaven trusted you with weight because you were strong enough to hold it until breakthrough arrived. That is why you often felt drained, because you were standing in the gap for battles no one else could see. Picture yourself as a candle burning in a silent room. No applause, no spotlight, only quiet, persistence. Yet that one flame was enough to break the grip of darkness. That is what you have been. Quiet, steady, unseen but vital. And now, a moment of response. Write this simple declaration in the comments. I choose light. Why? Because when you put those words into writing, you align with the truth that your silent nights are not wasted nights. By typing it, you turn hidden tears into a public testimony. You declare to yourself and to the unseen world that the darkness has not won. Do not underestimate this act. Words have power. When you declare, I choose light, you are breaking agreement with despair and choosing hope. You are stepping into the prophetic promise that your weeping may endure for the night, but joy comes in the morning. This is not just participation, it is transformation. Your silent nights were classrooms. They taught you endurance. They sharpened your sensitivity to God's whisper, and they birthed in you a compassion for others who weep in silence. You will not despise those nights one day, because they shaped the depth of your soul. Chosen one. Hear this clearly. The world did not see your tears, but heaven did, and heaven has already prepared the harvest for every seed sown in secret. What broke you will not define you. What you carried will not crush you. Instead, it will crown you. Your story is not one of endless sorrow, but of sacred exchange. Every silent night was an altar where God collected your tears and turned them into oil for your future. The heaviness you felt was not a sign of weakness, but a mantle being placed upon your shoulders. Those nights were not wasted. They were investments that heaven will multiply. Understand this. Nothing endured in secret goes unnoticed by the one who sees in secret. Just as the roots of a tree grow deeper in darkness before the branches stretch toward the sky, your unseen struggles have been anchoring you for seasons of fruitfulness. What looked like delay was actually God securing your foundation so that when you rise, you will never fall. Your presence carries weight you often underestimate. Have you noticed how rooms shift when you walk in? Sometimes conversations quiet. Sometimes people grow uneasy. And sometimes hostility rises without reason. It is not because of who you are in the natural, it is because of what you carry in the spiritual. Your light unsettled darkness, and the enemy has always recognized the mark upon you, even before you fully saw it yourself. From the earliest moments, you have been set apart. That is why certain attacks came against you so young. Darkness perceived your potential and moved early to silence you. But every blow meant to destroy you has only awakened you more. Like embers hidden beneath ash, your fire has never gone out. It waits for the breath of God to turn it into flame again. Think of Jesus entering the synagogue, reading the scroll of Isaiah, and declaring the Spirit of the Lord was upon him. Those who heard were astonished, not simply by his words, but by the authority that accompanied them. The same is true for you. People may not understand why they respond strongly to you, whether with admiration or resistance. But what they sense is the anointing you carry. I once met a young man who always felt uneasy in social gatherings. He thought he was awkward, that maybe something was wrong with him. Yet later, he realized that it wasn't awkwardness. It was the spiritual clash between the light within him and the shadows around him. His presence stirred hidden things in others, not because he was trying, but because he carried an authority they could not explain. His life revealed this truth. When you carry heaven's fire, you cannot help but expose what is false. The apostle reminds us in his letter to the Corinthians, chapter 4, verse 6, "For God, who said, 'Let light shine out of darkness,' made his light shine in our hearts to give us the light of the knowledge of God's glory displayed in the face of Christ." This light in you is not small, not fragile, not dim. It is the same light that broke through creation's first chaos. That is why the darkness recognizes it and trembles. You are not carrying your own glow. You are carrying the imprint of God's glory. Consider this. A lighthouse does not apologize for shining. Even if its light disrupts the comfort of the night, its very purpose is to pierce the darkness, to warn, to guide, and to protect. You are that lighthouse. The moments when people withdraw from you, when they resist you, are often confirmations that your light is doing its work. You reveal, by your very presence, what others would prefer to keep hidden. Yes, sometimes this feels lonely. Carrying light is costly. You may long for acceptance, only to discover that your spirit does not blend easily with environments saturated in compromise. But take heart, your separation is not rejection. It is assignment. Darkness cannot celebrate what exposes it, and compromise cannot welcome what convicts it. You might recall times when people avoided you without clear reason. They smiled less. They spoke cautiously, or they chose distance. It wasn't your fault. It was their spirits responding to yours. The oil you carry makes demons restless. The purity you pursue stirs conviction in hearts not ready for it. This is the hidden weight of being chosen. Picture a sword pulled from its sheath. It gleams, sharp and undeniable. No one can ignore it, whether they fear it or follow it. That is what your light is like. You cannot be hidden, no matter how much you try. Even your silence speaks. Even your absence is felt. You have been marked as a disruptor to darkness. Do not despise this. Do not wish it away. The very thing that causes some to withdraw from you is the same thing that will draw others to you. There are people waiting for a voice, a presence, a life that refuses to bow to shadows. And when they encounter you, they will recognize hope, because your light reveals that another way is possible. Your journey will not always be easy. The clash between light and darkness will follow you into different seasons. But remember this, you are not fighting from weakness, you are standing in authority. The same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead is alive in you. You are not easily shaken, nor are you easily silenced. Chosen one, let your light unsettle what it must. Let it pierce, convict, and awaken. You were not created to make the world comfortable. You were created to make the world see. There is a cost to being chosen, and you have felt it. Carrying this mantle has never been light. While others take the easy road, you have been called to walk the narrow path. There are days it feels as though the weight might break you, yet somehow you are still standing. That strength is not your own. It is grace given because you are meant to endure. Consider the image of a runner carrying a torch through a long relay. The crowd may cheer at the finish line, but most never see the lonely stretches of road, the aching muscles, or the moments when the flame almost went out. You are that runner. You have carried a light others could not. You have borne a cross that many refused. And though it has been heavy, it has also been holy. Some days, you wonder why others seem to live easier lives. They laugh without depth. They chase pleasures without restraint. And you wonder, why must my road demand so much? The truth is simple, because you are chosen. The discipline you feel is not punishment, it is preparation. What others escape from, you are called to face. What others avoid, you are called to carry. Think of Moses. Raised in Pharaoh's palace but destined for wilderness, he could not settle where others settled because heaven had marked him for more. Or think of Esther, who lived in luxury, yet carried the weight of a nation on her shoulders. To be chosen is to live with a burden the world does not understand. The voice of God thundered in the book of Exodus, chapter 19, verse 5. Now, if you obey me fully and keep my covenant, then out of all nations you will be my treasured possession. And you are that treasured possession. The cost of obedience is real, but so is the promise of inheritance. You may feel stripped of comforts, but you are clothed in favor. You may feel pressed by trials, but you are surrounded by covenant. There is a young woman I remember who gave up a path of comfort to follow the stirring in her spirit. Friends thought she was foolish. Family thought she was wasting her life. Yet in her sacrifice, she found a joy they could not explain. What she carried was heavier, but what she received was greater. Her story mirrors yours. Chosen ones are not called to comfort, but to crowns. And here, let me pause with sincerity. If the words you are receiving feed your spirit, if they water the dry soil of your soul, I want to invite you, not command you, to sow back into this well. Think of it as tending to a tree whose fruit you have eaten. Just as rivers must be replenished by rain, this flow continues through the generosity of those who believe in it. Hit subscribe to stay close to this stream. Tap like and share so that the living water you drink does not stop with you, but flows to others who are thirsty. And if your heart feels stirred, you may also donate, not as an obligation, but as a seed planted in fertile ground. No seed is ever lost. It grows into a tree whose shade blesses many. Your gift becomes oil poured into the lamp, keeping the flame burning for countless others in their darkest hour. And if giving is not possible for you now, know this: you're listening, you're sharing. Your prayers are also oil to this flame. Subscribing ensures you remain close to this flow of encouragement. Liking and sharing extends the light beyond you, reaching hearts you may never meet. Every act, great or small, matters. The weight of being chosen is heavy, but when we carry it together, it becomes bearable. You are not alone on this path. There are others like you, spread across the world, each carrying their torch. And when our flames unite, the night cannot remain dark. So continue forward with courage. Embrace the cost as proof of your crown. You have been chosen, not because the road is easy, but because your spirit is strong enough to endure. And as you walk, know that heaven smiles upon your sacrifice, promising that nothing given up for God is ever lost. You will discover that every tear shed, every comfort surrendered, every lonely step endured was building a kingdom legacy that cannot fade. Your cost is great, but your reward is greater still. And when that day comes, you will see with clarity that none of your sacrifices were wasted. Every burden lifted you higher. Every surrender carved strength within you. And every step marked the path of one who was truly chosen. There are moments when you have felt the urge to turn back. The weight of your journey pressed so heavily that you wondered if it would be easier to abandon the call and blend in with the crowd. Yet something inside you has never allowed you to surrender. That inner resistance is not your own. It is heaven's hand restraining you from destruction. But hear this carefully. To be chosen does not mean you can walk carelessly forever. There are seasons when mercy whispers and seasons when mercy warns. You stand in one of those critical thresholds now. Every decision you make is shaping not only your tomorrow, but generations after you. One more step into rebellion could blind your spirit, while one step into obedience can ignite your destiny. Think of Lot's wife, who turned back toward the city of fire. Her body was rescued, but her heart remained bound. In a single moment, her backward glance cost her everything. The same warning stands today. Do not turn back. The comforts of your past, the voices of compromise, the habits that once chained you, they are not worth the blindness that follows. I once knew a man who grew weary of walking in discipline. He envied others who lived freely, who seemed to prosper in shortcuts. One day he compromised just once, thinking it harmless. But that single moment opened a door that nearly devoured his calling. Only through deep repentance was he restored. Yet scars remained. His story stands as a mirror for many. What feels small today can echo through eternity. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Hosea. Chapter 14. Verse 9. The ways of the Lord are right. The righteous walk in them, but the rebellious stumble in them. The path before you is not a casual stroll. It is sacred ground. To walk in it requires a decision to obey, even when your flesh resists. Even when the world entices. The chosen cannot live divided. You cannot hold both the fire and the chains. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of a cliff. Behind you lies the valley of old habits, familiar voices, and temporary pleasures. Before you stretches a bridge of light leading to destiny, though it feels uncertain and requires trust. To turn back is to fall into shadow. To step forward is to discover strength you never knew you carried. This is where you stand now. Do not let weariness deceive you. Darkness wants you to believe that the cost of obedience is too high. But the true cost is disobedience. To turn back is to surrender the inheritance written with your name. To step forward, though trembling, is to lay hold of promises that generations prayed for. Remember Israel in the wilderness. Some longed to return to Egypt, back to chains, because freedom felt too demanding. But those who endured, who refused to turn back, entered a land flowing with milk and honey. You are on the same threshold. Do not let temporary hunger rob you of eternal abundance. Picture a ship at sea, tossed by waves. The temptation is to turn back to the nearest port, even if it is unsafe. But the captain who presses forward, guided by the stars, reaches the shore promised from the beginning. You are that captain. The storms are real, but so is the destination. Chosen one. This moment is not coincidence. It is divine interruption to warn and to strengthen you. You cannot afford to take rebellion lightly. Every step matters. Every choice carries weight. This is not fear, it is truth spoken in love. Because heaven sees what you cannot. Now, I invite you to mark this moment with a prophetic act. Write in the comments these words, 444. It is not just a number, It is a declaration that you choose stability, foundation, and obedience over compromise. When you type it, you are saying, "I will not turn back. I choose to stand on solid ground." This is not superstition, it is alignment. Numbers in Scripture often carried prophetic weight. By declaring 444, you are choosing to be like the cornerstone, steady, unshaken, unmovable. You are testifying that you belong not to the valley of shadows, but to the house built upon the rock. So let this warning become your strength. Let the thought of blindness stir you to cling tighter to the light. Let the fear of turning back become the courage to step forward. For you are chosen, not for destruction, but for destiny. And when history looks back at your life, it will not read of one who wavered at the edge of promise, but of one who walked boldly across the threshold and claimed the inheritance prepared before the foundations of the world. Conviction is not a burden, it is a gift. Many mistake it for shame, but shame pushes you away from God, while conviction pulls you closer. Conviction is heaven's way of saying, "You are too valuable to lose." When you feel that gentle weight in your spirit, it is not punishment, it is protection. Think of a shepherd watching over his sheep. The rod in his hand may look harsh, but its strike is not meant to wound. It is meant to guide, to correct, to prevent the sheep from wandering into a wolf's path. In the same way, the Spirit's conviction is the rod that keeps you safe, even when it stings. Without it, you would drift into dangers unseen. There was once a young man who described conviction as an invisible leash. He felt it pulling whenever he strayed too far, keeping him from paths his friends freely ran into. At times, he resented it, but years later, when he looked back and saw where those friends had ended up, his heart overflowed with gratitude. What once felt like limitation was actually preservation. This is your story, too. While others around you may indulge in reckless choices without hesitation, you cannot. The same action that seems harmless to them burns within you. You feel the tug, the whisper, the unrest that tells you, this is not for you. That unrest is not weakness, it is evidence of being chosen. The Apostle Paul wrote in his letter to the Romans, chapter 8, verse 14, "For those who are led by the Spirit of God are the children of God." Conviction is proof of sonship. It is heaven's mark upon you, reminding you that you do not belong to the world. If you were ordinary, the Spirit would not pursue you so persistently. The reason you feel the weight of conviction is because your life matters to the kingdom. Imagine walking through a forest at dusk. Some paths are safe, while others lead to cliffs hidden by shadows. Without light, the traveler risks disaster. Conviction is that light, it flashes across your path, revealing dangers you did not notice. You might feel delayed, but you are not destroyed. The warning saves you from the fall. And let us be honest, conviction is uncomfortable. It unsettles your heart, interrupts your plans, and demands response. But discomfort is the language of transformation. The butterfly must press through the cocoon's tightness before its wings unfold. The chosen must press through conviction's weight before destiny is revealed. Consider King David. After his failure, conviction pierced him like an arrow. He could have hardened his heart, but instead he cried, "Create in me a clean heart, O God." His response to conviction restored him, and from that place of brokenness, he became known not for his fall, but for his heart after God. This shows us that conviction is not the end, it is the doorway to renewal. Think of conviction as fire. It burns away what cannot remain, but it does not consume what is pure. Gold endures the flame, shining brighter than before. So it is with you. Conviction may strip you of habits, relationships, or desires that would have ruined you. But what remains is stronger, purer, more radiant. There are times when you may feel tempted to silence conviction, to drown it in distraction, to argue with it, to numb it with noise. But be warned, silencing conviction is silencing the very voice that safeguards your destiny. To listen and obey is to live. To resist is to risk blindness. Your sensitivity to conviction is not a weakness. It is your strength. It means your heart is alive. It means the Spirit has not left you to wander alone. Many live without conviction, numb to truth, blind to danger. But you, chosen one, feel the weight of heaven's hand because you are loved too deeply to be abandoned. So embrace conviction, even when it unsettles you. Welcome it as the hand of a father who refuses to lose his child. When conviction stirs, respond quickly, do not delay. Each response builds intimacy. Each obedience strengthens your steps. You will come to see conviction not as chains, but as wings. For every time you yield to it, you rise above snares that would have trapped you. Every yes to conviction is a no to destruction. Every surrender brings you closer to the freedom you long for. Chosen one, do not despise conviction. Treasure it, for it is proof that heaven still fights for you, still believes in you, still calls your name. There comes a point when mercy steps aside. This is a sobering truth, one that few want to face. But it must be spoken. Mercy is fast, deep, and patient. Yet it is not endless indulgence. Mercy extends time for repentance. But when its hand is continually refused, it withdraws. And when mercy withdraws, the heart becomes hardened, the ears grow deaf, and the eyes lose their light. Think of Pharaoh in Egypt. Time after time, he was given opportunities to soften, to release what God demanded. Each plague was not just judgment, it was also mercy. Another chance to turn. But with each refusal, his heart grew harder until mercy gave way to justice. This is the danger of resisting the call too long. What once stirred conviction becomes silence, and silence is the most fearful judgment of all. I remember speaking to a man who once wept easily in prayer. His heart was tender, quick to respond when the Spirit whispered. But over time, he ignored the nudges, excused the compromises, and quieted the voice that once led him. One day, he admitted with sorrow, "I don't feel anything anymore." What had happened? Mercy had been offered again and again, but when continually rejected, it stepped aside, leaving him to his own desires. The ancient words recorded in the letter to the Hebrews, chapter 3, verse 15, still echo today. Today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts. Mercy is a gift of today. It is the window to respond before tomorrow closes it. The danger lies in assuming the window will always be open. When the Spirit convicts, it is not wise to delay, for delay builds walls. and walls soon become prisons. Picture a candle burning in the night. The flame flickers, but continues to give light. Each refusal to listen is like placing a glass over the flame. The oxygen grows thinner until at last the light dies out. The room is left in darkness, not because the candle was weak, but because it was smothered. So it is with mercy. It does not vanish suddenly. It is silenced gradually until nothing remains. The chosen must understand this. You have felt conviction. You have heard the warnings. And you have been preserved because mercy stood between you and destruction. But if ignored, mercy steps back, and what once was shielded becomes exposed. This is not to instill fear for the sake of fear. It is to awaken urgency. Look at the story of King Saul, once anointed, once chosen, once filled with potential, yet when he hardened his heart, refusing to heed correction, mercy stepped aside. The Spirit departed from him, and the throne he once held passed to another. What tragedy! Not because God failed, but because mercy had been exhausted. There is an unseen line, a threshold of the heart. No one knows exactly when it is crossed, but it exists. Each time we resist mercy, we move closer to it. Each time we obey, we step back into safety. That is why the Spirit pleads so insistently, respond while the door is open. You may wonder, why does this matter to me? I still feel God's pull. And that, chosen one, is the very proof that mercy is still active in your life. The danger is not in feeling conviction, but in ignoring it. If you still hear, still feel, still tremble, give thanks. It means heaven has not given you over. It means mercy still stands, pleading for your response. Imagine waves washing against a shoreline. Each wave erodes a little more of the rock. If the rock remains unyielding, one day the waves cease, leaving it untouched but lifeless. Yet if the rock breaks, water fills the cracks, bringing life. You are not called to remain unyielding. You are called to soften, to break open, to let mercy fill you. This truth should stir reverence in your heart. Mercy is not weakness, it is divine strength, holding back judgment to give you time. But it will not always wait. Do not gamble with the patience of heaven. To do so is to risk everything. Chosen one. Let these words anchor deep. The greatest loss is not failure, not rejection, not pain. It is when mercy steps aside and the voice of God grows silent. As long as you can hear, respond. As long as you can feel, yield. For the silence of heaven is the weight no soul can carry. So treasure the gift you still hold. Lean into conviction. Embrace the whispers. And honor mercy's call. For every response you give today shapes the future you will walk tomorrow, and ensures the flame within you never fades into silence. There is a crown waiting for you, not one crafted by human hands, not one that fades with time, but one forged in the fires of obedience and endurance. Every trial you have walked through has been shaping that crown. Every rejection, every tear, every moment of perseverance in silence has been weaving glory that will one day rest upon your head. Crowns are not given cheaply. They are reserved for those who finish the race, who remain steadfast when quitting would have been easier. You may have stumbled. You may have crawled at times, but you have not abandoned the course. and heaven sees it. Think of Paul near the end of his life. After countless persecutions, imprisonments, and hardships, he declared with confidence that a crown of righteousness was laid up for him. His confidence was not in himself, but in the faithfulness of the one who called him. Your journey, though different in details, carries the same promise. If you endure, you too will inherit the crown. I recall a woman who endured years of unseen labor. She served faithfully, cared for others, and resisted bitterness, though her sacrifices were rarely acknowledged. When her season of recognition finally arrived, it was not applause that mattered to her, but the quiet assurance in her heart. Heaven saw me all along. That assurance became her crown long before she held any title. The word of the Lord speaks in the book of Revelation, chapter 2, verse 10. Be faithful, even to the point of death, and I will give you life as your victor's crown. This is not a metaphor for someone else. It is your reality. The trials that almost broke you are the very reasons your crown is being fashioned. The weight of your suffering is being exchanged for the weight of glory. Picture a jeweler shaping a crown. Every blow of the hammer, every cut of the chisel, every fire of refinement brings it closer to beauty. What feels like breaking is actually crafting. What feels like loss is hidden gain. Your crown is not being delayed, it is being perfected. There is a mystery here. Crowns are often forged in seasons of obscurity, when no one claps for you, when no one notices your endurance. When you resist the temptation to quit, that is when the jewels are added. Heaven honors what earth overlooks. And now, a prophetic act. Write this short declaration in the comments. I will finish. These 3 words are more than a phrase. They are an anchor. By typing them, you are making a public vow to your own soul and a testimony before heaven that you will not abandon your race. Why does this matter? Because words shape destiny. Declaring, I will finish, silences the lie that says you are too weak, too tired, or too broken to continue. It replaces despair with determination. It shifts you from surviving to overcoming, and one day, when you do receive your crown, you will remember this declaration as a milestone along the way. Chosen one, your story is not ending in defeat. The trials that seemed endless are only chapters, not conclusions. The crown of life, incorruptible and eternal, is already prepared for you. And every day you choose endurance. Every day you whisper yes to obedience. You are drawing closer to wearing it. You were not called to quit. You were not marked for failure. You were chosen for triumph. Your crown is waiting. The crown prepared for you is not only a symbol of victory, but also of identity. It declares before heaven and earth that you belong to the King, that your life was not wasted, and that every hidden sacrifice was seen. Crowns are not just ornaments, they are testimonies. When you wear yours, it will speak louder than words ever could. It will tell a story of endurance, of faith, of nights spent weeping, but mornings filled with strength. Understand this clearly. The enemy tried to convince you that your pain was meaningless, that your waiting was pointless, that your faithfulness was unnoticed. But the truth is the opposite. Every tear has been stored in the cup of remembrance. Every trial has added weight to your crown. The delays have not been denial, they have been preparation. You are being fitted for glory. So, lift your head. Even in the midst of battle, Imagine the day when the chief shepherd places the crown upon you and calls you by name. On that day, none of the struggles will matter, because the reward will outweigh them all. You are not striving in vain. You are not enduring in vain. The crown is real, and it belongs to you. The battles you have faced were never random. The storms that rose against you were not accidents. They were designed to test whether your faith could withstand the weight of your calling. Yet here you stand, bruised perhaps, but unbroken. We must speak clearly. Weapons have been formed against you, but they did not prosper. They struck, but they could not destroy. They whispered lies, but truth prevailed. You are living proof that God's promise is stronger than every attack. The prophet Isaiah once declared in chapter 54, verse 17, "No weapon forged against you will prevail. You will refute every accusing tongue. This is the heritage of the Lord's servants." Your survival is not by chance, it is inheritance. You carry a legacy of protection that cannot be broken. Even when enemies thought they had you cornered, angels surrounded you like invisible warriors. Even when words cut deep, the voice of God rose louder inside you. You are not simply surviving, you are overcoming. Imagine a tree in the middle of a storm. Winds bend its branches, rains flood its roots, yet the tree remains. Why? Because its roots go deep. That is you. The storms have proven not your weakness, but your foundation. Each battle has driven your roots deeper into God's strength. Now, even greater winds will not topple you. I once knew a man who felt as though every season of his life was war. He thought he must have done something wrong to face such opposition. But over time, he discovered that opposition is confirmation. The greater the calling, the fiercer the resistance. His battles did not mean abandonment, they meant his assignment carried weight. And so do yours. Now, let me speak with honesty and tenderness. If these words have been a shelter for you, if they have given you strength in the midst of storms, I invite you to take part in sustaining this flow. Think of it as a fire in the wilderness. You come, you warm yourself, and you find courage to go on. But fires do not burn without fuel. They must be tended. When you like and share this message, you are placing logs on the fire, ensuring that others wandering in cold nights can find warmth. When you subscribe, you choose to return to this fire again and again, knowing it will not go out. And if your heart feels led to donate, think of it as pouring oil into a lamp. It is not forced, not demanded, but it is your voluntary act of keeping the light shining for others. When you like and share, it is as if you release doves into the sky, each one carrying hope to someone far away who may never hear your voice but will feel your impact. When you subscribe, you are planting a vineyard. It will not bear fruit in one day, but over time it becomes a place of abundance, where you can return again and again to be nourished. And if your heart feels moved to donate, think of it as laying stones into a bridge. Every stone matters, and together they form a path that others in despair can safely walk across. There is no obligation here. Grace cannot be purchased. Truth cannot be bought. This is not about requirement, it is about invitation. If the Spirit stirs you, then give. If not, know that your presence, your prayers, and your willingness to share are also part of tending this flame. Consider a river. Each drop of water seems small, but together they create a stream strong enough to carve valleys and sustain life. In the same way, each act you're like, your share, your subscription, your gift becomes a drop that keeps this river flowing. And as it flows, it nourishes countless souls who thirst for hope. Your battles have taught you one thing: you cannot fight alone. You needed the unseen hand of God, and you needed voices to remind you that you were not abandoned. In the same way, someone else right now is in the middle of their storm, searching desperately for a word. You can be part of the answer. Every battle you have overcome is now a testimony. Every storm you have survived is evidence. And every act of support you give is a torch lit for the next traveler in the dark. This is the beauty of being chosen. Your fight is never just for yourself, but for others who will follow. So walk boldly, chosen one. Do not fear the weapons, for they will not prosper. Do not tremble at the storms, for they only prove your roots. You are more than a survivor. You are a warrior crowned with victory. And every step you take forward declares that no battle was wasted, no tear unseen, nor fight in vain. The wilderness is not a place of punishment. It is a place of preparation. You know this truth, even if you have not always recognized it. The seasons when you felt most isolated, when it seemed as though heaven itself had gone silent, were not wasted. They were training grounds, carefully designed to forge strength that comfort could never give. Think of Israel wandering 40 years in the desert. To the natural eye, it seemed cruel, a never-ending delay. But in truth, it was the furnace where faith was tested, where dependence on God was built, and where a generation was shaped into warriors. The wilderness stripped them of Egypt's influence and taught them to trust manna from heaven, water from the rock, and fire by night. Without the wilderness, they could never have inherited the promise. Your wilderness has done the same. It pulled away false supports. It removed the voices you leaned on too heavily. It exposed the idols you did not realize you carried. And in that painful silence, your spirit learned to hear the still, small whisper of God. I once knew a woman who described her wilderness season as living in a desert of unanswered prayers. She said the silence nearly broke her, but in time, she discovered that silence was not absence, it was instruction. In the wilderness, she found a strength she did not know she had, and a clarity she could not find in noise. Her desert became her doorway into destiny. The writings of Deuteronomy, chapter 8, verse 2, remind us, remember how the Lord your God led you all the way in the wilderness these 40 years, to humble and test you in order to know what was in your heart, whether or not you would keep his commands. Losend. This is why your wilderness matters. It humbles you. It tests you. It reveals what lies beneath the surface. And though the process is painful, the outcome is priceless. The wilderness transforms wanderers into warriors. Imagine a blacksmith's forge. Iron is placed into fire, beaten, cooled, then heated again, over and over. The process repeats until the iron is no longer brittle, but strong, sharp, and ready for battle. That is what your wilderness has been. Each wave of heat, each strike of the hammer, each cooling silence has been shaping you into a weapon heaven can trust. Do not despise this season. Many run from it, desperate to escape discomfort. But you have endured. and in your endurance. You have gained treasures others cannot see. You have gained resilience. You have gained discernment. You have gained intimacy with God that only those who walk through barren places can understand. Consider Elijah, hidden by the brook Cherith. For a time, rains fill him, and the brook sustained him. It was not glamorous, but it was holy. In the hiddenness, Elijah was prepared for the fire on Mount Carmel. Without the brook, there would have been no bold confrontation with the prophets of Baal. In the same way, your wilderness has not diminished you. It has preserved and prepared you. There are days you may have felt forgotten, but look closely. Who kept you in your weakest hours? Who provided manna when you had nothing left? Who whispered hope when despair tried to suffocate you? The wilderness has proven again and again that you are not abandoned, you are sustained. Picture a seed buried beneath soil. To anyone watching, it looks like death. Buried, hidden, forgotten. But beneath the ground, roots are spreading, life is stirring, strength is forming. In time, the seed breaks through the surface, stronger because of what was cultivated in the dark. That is your story. What felt like burial was actually planting. What looked like silence was preparation for growth. One day, you will look back on your wilderness, not with bitterness, but with gratitude. You will see how every lonely step was shaping endurance. You will recognize how every unanswered prayer was drawing you deeper. You will understand that your wilderness was not wasted, it was sacred. Chosen one. Let your wilderness strengthen you. Let it teach you to stand when comfort is stripped away. Let it remind you that promise is real, but preparation is necessary. The desert is not the end. It is the place where warriors are born. And when the time comes to step out, you will no longer walk as one uncertain or fragile. You will emerge as one refined, steady, and unshakable. The wilderness that once felt endless will become the testimony that proves you were trained by God Himself for victories yet to come. There are signs scattered along your path, little confirmations that remind you heaven has been speaking all along. Some call them coincidences, but the chosen know better. Prophetic numbers, divine timings, unexpected encounters, all are threads in the tapestry of your journey. They whisper, you are not forgotten. You are exactly where you need to be. 1. Perhaps you have noticed numbers appearing again and again in your life. Not random, but repeating, consistent, tugging at your attention. It might be on a clock when you glance without planning. It might be on a receipt, a license plate, a page number in a book. These are not accidents. They are heaven's way of reminding you, I am near, I am guiding. Oh, think of Jacob in the wilderness, dreaming of a ladder reaching into heaven. That vision was more than an image. It was confirmation that God was present in a place Jacob thought was empty. Numbers and signs work the same way. They become markers of presence, signals that you are walking a divinely orchestrated path. I once knew a woman who struggled to believe her prayers were heard. She often asked God for a tangible sign, over and over. She began seeing the same sequence of numbers in unexpected places. At first, she dismissed it, but when she paused and prayed, she realized those numbers corresponded to a verse she had read years earlier. The verse carried a promise she desperately needed in that season. What seemed ordinary became extraordinary. The writings of Proverbs, chapter 16, verse 9. Remind us, in their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. Prophetic numbers and confirmations are heaven's way of establishing your steps. They are not magic, not superstition, but reminders. They anchor your faith when doubt creeps in. They whisper, "You are not walking alone." Every step is ordered. 1. Imagine walking through a dense forest. The path seems unclear. The trees tower above, and shadows stretch in every direction. Then, suddenly, you notice carved symbols on the trees, marks left to guide you forward. Relief fills you because you know you are not lost. That is what these prophetic numbers are, carved reminders that the journey has been marked out for you. Some will not understand. They will dismiss it as coincidence, as imagination. But chosen ones recognize that God often speaks in patterns, in rhythms, in whispers others overlook. To those who are sensitive, every number becomes a reminder. The Lord is guiding my way. And here, I invite you to act with faith. Write in the comments this prophetic number, 333. Why? Because it symbolizes divine completeness and the presence of God's Trinity walking with you. When you declare 333, you are saying, "I trust the steps ordered for me. I believe His grace and His presence surround my journey." This is not superstition, it is declaration. It is you aligning your words with heaven's rhythm. Just as Israel placed stones of remembrance by the Jordan to testify of God's faithfulness, so too does this act become a marker. It tells your soul, "God has not left me. I walk in His grace." Let this truth sink deep. You are not lost. You are not wandering without direction. The signs along your path are heaven's fingerprints, assuring you that the journey, though uncertain to you, is clear to Him. Chosen one. Continue to walk with open eyes. Pay attention to the whispers, the patterns, the confirmations. For every step you take, heaven is speaking. You are mine. You are guided. You are chosen. The number is not the power itself, it is the reminder. Heaven could have chosen any method, but numbers are simple, precise, and hard to ignore. They pierce through your daily routine, showing up when you least expect it, to awaken your awareness. By noticing them, you are not clinging to superstition, but opening your eyes to God's subtle fingerprints along your journey. Think of a traveler following stars in the night sky. Each constellation is a signal that points him in the right direction. Without those stars, the darkness would overwhelm him. But with them, he finds confidence to continue. In the same way, prophetic numbers become your stars. They cannot replace the word, but they align with it. They cannot save you, but they remind you of the one who does. So do not ignore the signs. Do not dismiss the patterns that catch your eye again and again. Pause, reflect, pray, and allow the Spirit to confirm what heaven is speaking. For when you honor these divine nudges, you are training your heart to stay sensitive. And a sensitive heart is one that will never drift too far from God's voice. There are enemies you have seen, and there are enemies you have not. Some have smiled to your face while quietly hoping for your fall. Others have clothed themselves in friendship but carried daggers in their hearts. And still others have opposed you not out of their own will, but because the spirit of darkness that fears your calling has used them as instruments. The truth is sobering. The greater your assignment, the greater the opposition. Consider Joseph once more. His own brothers conspired against him. They threw him into a pit, sold him into slavery, and lied about his fate. Yet every betrayal carried him closer to the throne God had prepared. Betrayal does not prove the absence of God's hand, it proves the weight of his plan. If Joseph had not been betrayed, he would never have reached Egypt. If he had never reached Egypt, he would not have saved nations. I remember a young woman who poured her energy into building trust with those around her. She believed loyalty was unbreakable. But when her season of promotion drew near, people she once leaned on withdrew their support, even turned against her. At first, the pain nearly crushed her, but as time passed, she realized their betrayal was not a loss, but a revelation. Those who left exposed what could not walk with her into destiny. The pruning felt cruel, but it was protection. The writings of Psalms, chapter 27, verse 2, remind us, "When the wicked advance against me to devour me, it is my enemies and my foes who will stumble and fall." And this is not just poetry, it is promise. The enemies who rise against you cannot stand for long. They may hiss, they may strike, but they will stumble. Their very schemes become snares for themselves. Think of it like shadows cast at sunset. They look large, looming, almost overwhelming. Yet they are nothing more than the absence of light. The moment the sun rises fully, the shadows vanish. In the same way, your enemies may appear strong in the moment, but when the light of God shines on your path, they are exposed and undone. It is not easy to endure betrayal. The knife of a stranger wounds, but the knife of a friend cuts deeper. Yet even these wounds can be turned into wisdom. They teach you discernment. They sharpen your vision. They train you to lean more on God than on the unstable loyalties of men. Pain becomes a tutor, showing you that not every voice should guide you, and not every hand deserves access to your heart. King David knew this pain well. He was hunted by Saul, betrayed by his own son, Absalom, mocked by enemies who once sang his praises. Yet through it all, David learned that God was his fortress, not men. The betrayals stripped him of false safety nets, leaving him clinging only to God's shield. That is where true strength is forged, not in applause, but in abandonment. Imagine walking through a garden. Some plants grow healthy and strong, but others are parasites, draining life from the soil. If the gardener does not remove them, they choke the very roots of what should flourish. Betrayal, though painful, is often the gardener's hand. It removes what could not grow with you, freeing space for what is true to take root. There is also opposition not seen with eyes, but felt in spirit. Nights when heaviness pressed against you with no explanation. Days when resistance seemed to rise against even the smallest steps forward. These unseen enemies confirm that your life carries weight in the spiritual realm. For what darkness does not fear, it does not fight. The intensity of your battles is evidence of your significance. Chosen one. Do not be discouraged by hidden enemies. Do not grow bitter at betrayal. These are confirmations, not curses. They reveal the value of your calling, the depth of your assignment, and though they cut deeply, they cannot cancel what heaven has decreed. One day, you will see clearly, those who betrayed you only pushed you further into purpose. Those who opposed you only sharpened your endurance. The wounds they inflicted will become the very scars that testify of your survival. And when your crown is placed upon your head, every enemy, seen and unseen, will know they never had the final word. And in that moment, you will not rise with bitterness, but with peace. For you will understand that even your enemies were instruments in the hand of a greater plan. What was meant for harm became the very tool heaven used to elevate you higher. Every warrior must learn not only how to endure battles, but also how to fight them with heaven's strategies. You were never meant to stumble through conflict blindly, striking at shadows without aim. God has equipped you with divine weapons, strategies tailored not for flesh and blood, but for the unseen forces that war against your destiny. The Apostle Paul wrote in his second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 10, verse 4, "The weapons we fight with are not the weapons of the world. On the contrary, they have divine power to demolish strongholds." Your battles are not against people. Though people may seem like the obstacle, beneath every betrayal, every false accusation, every resistance, there are spiritual forces at work, and heaven does not leave you defenseless. You are armed with authority, with prayer, with the word, with the shield of faith and the sword of the Spirit. These are not poetic ideas, they are living realities, sharper and stronger than any weapon of the world. Think of Joshua before Jericho. The city was fortified, its walls unbreakable to human eyes. Yet God's strategy was not siege weapons or battering rams. It was obedience, marching in silence, blowing trumpets, and shouting when the moment came. What seemed foolish to men brought walls crashing down. In the same way, your victories will not always come through logic or human strength, but through surrender to divine strategy. I once knew a woman who prayed faithfully for her family. Though years passed without change, she grew weary, ready to stop. But then the Spirit reminded her that prayer was not wasted words, it was warfare. She adjusted her prayers, speaking scripture aloud, declaring promises instead of pleading in despair. Slowly, chains began to break. Hearts softened, situations shifted. She learned what many do not. Prayer is not passive, it is the front line of battle. Picture yourself as an archer, without aim. Your arrows scatter uselessly, but with training, each arrow strikes its mark. Spiritual strategies are the aim, aligning your efforts so that every prayer, every declaration, every step hits where it matters. Without them, you exhaust yourself. With them, you walk in authority. Fasting, too, is a weapon often misunderstood. It is not starvation, but separation, a sharpening of focus, a declaration that your spirit governs your body, not the other way around. In seasons when the noise of the world grows loud, fasting silences the static, tuning your ears back to heaven's frequency. Through it, you gain clarity and power that casual living cannot provide. The Word of God is another strategy, living, breathing, sharper than a double-edged sword. When you speak it, you are not reciting poetry, but wielding a weapon. Darkness does not fear your opinions, but it trembles at truth, declared with authority. That is why Jesus responded to temptation, not with debate, but with scripture. Each, "It is written," struck like a blade, cutting down lies at their root. Worship, too, is warfare. When Paul and Silas sang in prison, chains fell and doors opened. Worship shifts atmospheres. It declares that God is enthroned even in the darkest dungeon. When you lift your voice in song, you are not merely expressing emotion, you are aligning with heaven's armies, releasing sound that shatters prisons. Do not underestimate the strategy of stillness. The world glorifies noise and constant movement, but often the Spirit speaks most clearly in quiet surrender. To pause, to wait, to listen. This is warfare against the chaos that seeks to control you. Stillness anchors your soul in trust, declaring that God fights for you even when you cannot see the battle. Imagine a general leading soldiers into battle. Victory is not only about strength, but about knowing when to advance, when to retreat, when to ambush, when to hold ground. In the same way, the Spirit guides you with strategies specific to your fight. What worked in one season may not work in another. That is why intimacy with God is essential. You must hear His current instructions, not rely on yesterday's. Chosen one. Your enemies are real, but so are your weapons. Do not neglect them. Do not fight with fists when you have been given swords. Do not despair at walls when trumpets are in your hand. Every strategy of heaven is yours, if only you listen and obey. And one day, when you look back on the battles you thought would crush you, you will see they were classrooms. Each fight taught you skill. Each resistance trained your hands for war and your fingers for battle. You are not merely surviving conflict. You are becoming a strategist of heaven, a warrior refined by fire, equipped to stand unshaken. There comes a moment when the chosen must rise. You cannot stay hidden forever. You cannot stay silent forever. The hour has come for you to stand, to lift your head, and to walk in the authority that has always been yours. Fear has tried to shrink you. Doubts have tried to silence you. But the voice of heaven declares, it is time. Standing does not mean arrogance. It means courage. It means refusing to bow to the lies that tell you that you are unworthy, that you are too broken, that you are too late. Standing means taking your place, not in your own strength, but in the strength that has carried you through every trial. Think of Esther, trembling as she prepared to enter the king's court. She knew her life was on the line, yet she also knew she was chosen for such a time as this. Her decision to stand did not just save her life, it saved a nation. In the same way, your decision to rise now is not just about you, it is about all who will be impacted by your obedience. I remember a man who, for years, hid his gifts out of fear of rejection. He kept his voice small, convinced no one wanted to hear him. But the day he finally stood, the room shifted. People who were silent began to hope again, all because he chose to rise. What he thought was weakness became strength when offered to God. The book of Joshua, chapter 1, verse 9, speaks with clarity. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord is with you. This is not a suggestion, it is a command. Courage is not an option for the chosen. It is the atmosphere in which they must breathe. And when you stand, you prove that God's presence is greater than any fear surrounding you. Now, let me pause here to speak heart to heart. You have been receiving, listening, drawing strength from these words. And if they have touched you, If they have been like bread to your hunger or water to your thirst, then I gently invite you to do something beautiful. When you press like, it is as if you plant a seed in this soil, saying, "Let this tree grow taller so more can find shade." When you share, it is as if you release a lantern into the night sky, carrying light farther than your own eyes can see. When you subscribe, it is like choosing to return to a well every time you draw near. You know water will be waiting for you, and if your heart is stirred to donate, it is as if you pour oil into a lamp. The lamp is already burning, but with your oil, it shines longer, brighter, reaching places you may never go yourself. And when you leave a comment, it is as if you carve your name into the stone of this journey, saying, "I was here. I chose to stand." Every word you write becomes a footprint on the path, reminding others that they are not walking alone. Your comment may seem simple, but to someone reading it on a weary night, it could be the spark that keeps them moving forward. There is no demand in this, only invitation. Just as love cannot be forced, true support must come freely. You are not giving because you must, but because your spirit longs to be part of something eternal. Every act, whether small or great, becomes part of the story. Heaven is writing through this message. Consider this. A single drop of rain seems insignificant, but when joined with countless others, it fills rivers, carves valleys, and nourishes the earth. Your single action, liking, sharing, subscribing, commenting, giving, may feel small, but when joined with others, it becomes a river of hope flowing to those who are desperate for life. The call to stand is not just about facing battles, it is also about choosing community. You rise not only for yourself, but for those who cannot yet rise. Your flame is not meant to burn alone, but to join with others, forming a fire that darkness cannot quench. So, chosen one, stand, rise without hesitation. Shake off the dust of fear and lift your head with boldness. You have been through too much to remain seated in silence. The world is waiting for the sound of your voice, the weight of your presence, the testimony of your endurance. And as you rise, remember this: heaven rises with you. You are not standing alone. The one who called you is the one who strengthens you, and the crown awaiting you is proof that your standing was never in vain. The harvest has always been the goal. Every season of pain, every tear shed in silence, every battle fought in hidden places was never just for your survival, it was for impact. You were separated, not so that you could stand alone, but so that you could stand as one who carries life to others. Jesus told his disciples that the fields are ripe for harvest, yet the workers are few. This truth remains today. The world is overflowing with souls who hunger for hope, who thirst for truth, who wander in darkness, waiting for light. And you, chosen one, are part of the answer to that hunger. Every seed you sow, every word of kindness, every act of faith, every prayer whispered it, all carries eternal weight. You may not see the fruit immediately, but heaven counts it. What looks small to you becomes multiplied in the hands of God. Think of Ruth, who chose loyalty over comfort. She left her homeland to walk with Naomi, a decision that seemed insignificant at the time, yet from her lineage came kings, and from her story came redemption. What looked like survival was actually seed planted for a harvest she could never have imagined. I once knew a man who lived quietly, faithfully working in his community without recognition. He helped the overlooked, prayed for the forgotten, and gave what little he had. Years later, people testified that his quiet faithfulness had changed the course of their lives. He never stood on a stage, never held a title, but his harvest was immeasurable. His life is proof. The chosen are not measured by applause but by fruit. Imagine a farmer who watches the sky. He cannot control the rain or the sun, but he can sow. His hands may ache from breaking hard ground, yet he trusts that the soil will respond in time. That is you. You may not control every outcome, but you are called to sow faithfully, and the promise remains: what is sown in tears will be reaped in joy. Sometimes the harvest is not immediate. Seeds often die before they rise. You may feel as if your efforts have disappeared into the ground, but do not despair. Seeds buried in darkness are not dead, they are hidden, preparing to sprout. What you thought was lost is germinating in silence. Soon, green shoots will break through, and the fruit will testify of your endurance. Consider the words of Jesus in the Gospel of John, chapter 12, verse 24. Very truly I tell you, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains a single seed. But if it dies, it yields many. This verse is not only about wheat, it is about you. The chosen life demands surrender, the letting go of what feels safe, the burial of your own plans so that something greater can rise. A seed in the hand stays small, but once planted, it multiplies beyond measure. In the same way, your sacrifices, your obedience, your willingness to be hidden for a season are producing a harvest you cannot yet see. What feels like loss is actually the birthplace of abundance. Picture a single torch pass through a crowd. One by one, others light their own flames from it. Soon, the entire place is glowing. The first torch may feel small, but its flame spreads beyond imagination. That is what your life is meant to be, not a solitary light, but the spark that ignites many. Do not despise the season of sowing. Do not underestimate the weight of your obedience. Every seed matters. Every act matters. Heaven does not measure like the world does. It multiplies in ways unseen. One word can save a soul. One gesture can break a chain. One prayer can shift a destiny. Chosen one, the harvest is waiting. It is not far away, not unreachable, not reserved only for others. It is yours to step into. Your wilderness has trained you. Your battles have refined you. Your scars have prepared you. Now, the fields before you are white with fruit. Step forward, for the time of harvest has come, and when you step into that field, you will see faces you never expected, lives you never imagined, hearts that were waiting for your obedience. The harvest is not abstract, it is people, souls, stories being rewritten because you chose to sow. So, walk without hesitation. The labor may be heavy, but the joy will overflow. For every tear you cried in hidden places, there will be laughter multiplied in the open. The harvest will reveal what heaven always knew. Your life was never just about you. Glory has always been your destination, not the fleeting kind men chase, the kind that fades with applause and disappears with titles. but the eternal kind weighty, unshockable, rooted in heaven itself. You were chosen not just to endure, not just to survive, but to be crowned. This crown is not crafted of gold that tarnishes, nor jewels that lose their shine. It is woven from every moment of obedience, every trial endured, every sacrifice surrendered. It carries the brilliance of eternity because it is given by the hand of the King himself. And when it rests upon your head, it will testify that you were faithful, that you stood when others fell, that you believed when others doubted. The Apostle Peter declared in his first letter, chapter 5, verse 4, "And when the chief shepherd appears, you will receive the crown of glory that will never fade away." No, this is not a distant dream. It is a reality prepared for you. The one who called you has already prepared the crown, waiting for the moment you finish your race. It will not fade. It will not slip. It will not be taken. It is yours, sealed in eternity. Think of a marathon runner approaching the finish line. Muscles ache. Breath shortens. The weight of exhaustion presses in, yet when the crowd roars, strength returns for those final steps. That is your life now. You have endured storms, carried crosses, walked through wilderness, and though fatigue may whisper that you cannot go on, the finish line is before you. The crown is waiting, and heaven is cheering. I once heard of a woman who lived her life quietly, unnoticed by many. She prayed faithfully, served humbly, and endured hardship with grace. At her passing, testimonies poured in of lives she had touched. She never sought glory on earth, but in heaven, her crown blazed bright. Her story reminds us that crowns are not earned by applause, but by faithfulness. Glory is not just about what awaits in eternity. It is also about what rests upon you now. When Moses descended from the mountain after meeting with God, his face shone with glory that others could not ignore. In the same way, your time in God's presence leaves a mark. You may not see it, but others sense it. Your very life carries the fragrance of heaven, a glimpse of glory to come. Imagine a sculptor chiseling stone. With each strike, the figure hidden inside emerges more clearly. Your trials have been those strikes. Painful, yes, but purposeful. Each blow revealed more of who you were created to be. And now, as the final strokes are made, the crown prepared for you reflects not the strikes, but the beauty they unveiled. Glory does not erase scars, it transforms them. When Jesus appeared after his resurrection, his scars remained, yet they no longer spoke of death, they testified of victory. Your scars, too, will not vanish. They will shine as proof of survival, as evidence of grace, as markers of the battles that led to triumph. Picture yourself standing in the great assembly of heaven. Multitudes gather, voices rise, and the chief shepherd approaches with his hands, scarred yet radiant. He places the crown upon your head. In that moment, every tear is answered, every question resolved, every sacrifice redeemed, and the words you long to hear will echo, "Well done, good and faithful servant, lay, chosen one." The journey has been long, but the crown is certain. The fire has been fierce, but the glory is eternal. You have been marked not for shame, not for defeat, but for honor. You are crowned with glory, set apart forever, unstoppable and unshakable. And when that crown rests upon you, you will finally see what heaven has known all along. You were never ordinary. You were always chosen. And when that crown is placed upon your head, it will not only mark your victory, but also reveal God's victory through you. For every battle that once threatened to consume, you becomes part of the brilliance woven into that crown. It is not merely your reward, it is heaven's testimony. You will understand then that nothing was wasted. The lonely nights, the heavy burdens, the scars you carried in silence, they were all threads in the tapestry of glory. What felt like breaking was building, and what felt like delay was only divine preparation for this moment. The beauty of the crown is that it tells your story without words. Those who look upon it will know that you stood when quitting would have been easier. They will see that you chose obedience over rebellion, faith over fear, endurance over despair. And as eternity unfolds, you will carry that glory not as a possession, but as an identity. You will forever be marked as one who overcame, one who was faithful, one who was crowned, chosen one. You have walked with me through this entire journey. Every section has been a step, every word, a seed, every truth, a flame reminding you that you are set apart. And now, as this script draws to a close, heaven does not simply release you, it commissions you. You are not returning to the world the same. You carry revelation, weight, and glory. But remember this, light was never meant to be hidden. The message you have received is not only for you, someone else is waiting, somewhere in their silent night, longing for the same reminder that lifted you today. When you press like, it is as if you drop a pebble into water. The ripples stretch far beyond what your eyes can see. When you share, you release a spark into the dark sky. And you may never know whose night is illuminated because of your flame. When you subscribe, you are choosing to return to a well that does not run dry. Every time you come back, living water will be waiting for you. And when you comment, it is like etching your name onto a stone along the path. Someone walking behind you will see it and realize, I am not alone. Your words become a footprint, a testimony, a gentle hand reaching back to lift another traveler. And if your heart is stirred to donate, think of it as sowing seed into fertile ground. That seed will grow into trees of shelter for people you may never meet, bearing fruit in seasons yet to come. This is not about pressure. It is about participation. Every act, small or great, becomes part of the story. Heaven is writing through this message. You are not only receiving, you are building, sustaining, and extending light into corners where despair still hides. And think of this, when you support, whether by a like, a share, a comment, a subscription, or a gift, it is as if you add your stone to the foundation of a cathedral. One stone alone seems small, but together they form a house of glory where generations can enter, find shelter, and encounter God's presence. Your act is not forgotten. It becomes part of something eternal, something greater than any one life. So, go forward now. Stand tall. Live as one who has been awakened, one who has been chosen, one who is crowned. And may your life be the living proof that heaven still writes stories through ordinary vessels touched by extraordinary grace.